On this page, we're going to look at how to fight fair. In other words, how to confront our children when they misbehave in a way that is going to be fruitful, in a way that's going to yield the result that we want. Most of us have either been passive or aggressive. In other words, passive means that we let our kids have their way and they could pretty much do what they want when they wanted to, with whomever they wanted to, and then we got upset with them for whatever reason. Then we raged at the kid, which is aggressive, and then we felt guilty for raging, and then we went back to being passive again. So we don't want to do that anymore. We want to be assertive, and what we're going to do in our effort to be assertive is we're going to confront each problem as it comes up at the appropriate time, but we're going to confront in a way that is going to increase the likelihood that we'll get what we want. Now, the first thing to keep in mind, and I've said this before, is we want to remain calm. Because if we need to confront misbehavior, then that's usually the time when things are going wrong, right? There's been misbehavior, so now something's going wrong. We don't want to provide any intensity during that time. So we put on our poker face. We don't overreact. If you start to feel angry or upset about what's going on and you feel like you're about to lose control, then you take a timeout. Don't put your kid in timeout. You take a timeout. Do something to help yourself calm down. Take a walk, do some deep breathing, pet a cat, play with the dog, do some dishes, whatever it takes to get your blood pressure back down before you confront. The next thing we want to keep in mind when we're confronting is we want to be very specific about what's bothering us. Vague complaints are really hard to work on. So we want to avoid saying things such as, you need to learn to behave, or you need to have a better attitude, or you need to learn how to be more respectful. That's just too general. We want to be very detailed when we're describing to our child the behavior that we want changed. If I were to videotape your child misbehaving, what would I see? Would I see him showing up at 11 p.m. rather than his 9 p.m. curfew? If I were to videotape him having a bad attitude, what would I see? Would he be calling you a particular name? Would he be pushing his sister down the stairs? What is it? If I were to videotape your child being disrespectful, what would I see? Would I see him slamming the door in your face because you told him no? So be very detailed when you're describing the behavior that you want changed. Another thing to bear in mind when we're confronting is we want to deal with only one problem at a time. Okay? Pick your battles carefully. Some things we don't want to fight at all. But the ones that we do fight, we want to make sure we're only fighting one at a time. So we don't want to introduce a bunch of problems until problem 1 has been solved. We'll deal with problem 2, 3, 4, and 5 later. This avoids the kitchen sink effect. This is where people throw in all their complaints while not allowing anything to be resolved. So pick your battles carefully. Some battles you don't want to fight. Most battles you will want to fight, but only one at a time. The next thing to bear in mind when we confront our kids' inappropriate behavior is we do not want to hit below the belt. And all I mean by that is we don't want to attack personality. Instead, we want to confront the behavior. So, for example, rather than saying you are being disrespectful, we want to say your behavior is inappropriate, or what you said is unacceptable, or what you did creates a problem for me in this way. So this separates the person from the problem, and when we do this, when we confront this way, the child doesn't feel like he's being attacked as a person. Rather, it's all about the behavior. We also want to avoid accusations. If, for example, you have a hunch that your child has stolen something, you don't want to charge in and accuse him of being a thief. If you think that your child may have lied to you, you don't want to say, well, I know that you've lied to me, or you are a liar, or any statements like that. The reason being is because as soon as we accuse, even though we don't have any evidence yet, we have decreased the likelihood that that problem will ever be solved in the future, because the child, instead of coming clean and getting honest, he's going to be more concerned about defending himself. So wait until the evidence is in. Then you can go in with the evidence and tell your child that Now I have the facts, and this is what I understand happened, and here's the consequence as a result. We also want to avoid overgeneralizations. In other words, statements like never or always. We don't want to say, well, you never do this, or you always do that. And the reason being is because this is going to stir up defensiveness in the child, and the more that they are defensive, the less we are going to get a solution to the problem. So avoid make-believe, avoid exaggerating, avoid inventing a complaint, avoid generalizations, and we usually generalize when we're upset. So the best method to stop using terms such as never and always, or to blow a problem way out of proportion, is for us to take the time out, calm down, gather our rational mind, then we can go in and be about the business of problem solving rather than blaming or attacking. Also, we don't want to stockpile. And all I mean by stockpiling is we don't want to store up a lot of grievances and hurt feelings over time. That's going to be hugely counterproductive. And it's almost impossible to deal with numerous old problems. For example, if something happened last week and you're just now getting around to dealing with it, you're going to have one interpretation of what happened. Your kid's going to have a totally different interpretation. He may even forgot about what happened. So we want to deal with the problem and confront it as quickly as possible. In other words, within the hour if we can, or certainly within that same day. So deal with the problem as quickly as possible and issue the consequence as quickly as possible. If something happened last week or 2 weeks ago and we're just now getting around to implementing the consequence, the lesson is probably going to get lost because the child has really forgot about what he did and doesn't make the connection between that 2-week-old problem and the current consequence.